Sitting next to you this week. He's not, but why choose Barry as captain? You seem to be having a bit of a match between him and Jack. Is that
no, not at all. It's just both boys have been captain under the 20s. They're highly respected, not just by us but by the regions as well and stuff, and potentially future captains of Wales, not just in the short term but the long term. So it's not about. It's kind of thinking about putting things together, obviously for the World Cup, but starting to a little bit of the process about the next cycle and getting on that next cycle with a group of players is probably. We know there's a number of players who won't be available for us for the Six Nations, whether they make the World Cup squad or not. So there will be changes going forward too.
Is it an indication that we can expect a new generation of captain for the World Cup then?
Probably.
In terms of the team, there's obviously an awful lot of changes. What are you expecting from this side against Spain and away?
What am I expecting? A group of players who are desperate to perform. So it's a good situation to be in. England have picked their squad, so they'll want to go out there and perform. But sometimes it's almost the relief of being selected in the squad and understand that they might be happy I'm on the plane and there's and whether you're quite there emotionally, it's kind of a little bit that's a challenge for them to get up. I know we've got a group of players that are in the right headspace because that team went out last week and we weren't perfect, but I thought they showed some great signs of what we're looking for as a group, and particularly the second half, and I thought we saw a group of players playing for each other. So for me personally, it's a good position to be in, knowing there's a team going out on Saturday against England who want to perform but know they have to perform as well.
Lots of interesting competition with Joe Roberts in the centre. There's obviously a new cap. What makes you start him?
Joe?
Yeah.
I've been impressed with him for a while in terms of his footwork and carrying and stuff. He's got... he's big through the thighs. He's got a big ass as well, so that's always a positive for a midfielder. He's left-footed, and we haven't got any other left-footers as well, so that gives us a little bit of a point of difference in terms of your kicking strategy and your exit plays and how you might want to manipulate teams. So I'm interested to see how he goes there. Look, he's had a bit of a knee, hasn't taken a full part in trainings and stuff, but he's back fit now, and so interested to see how he goes. With Nick, we spoke about Kieran potentially, but it would have been a pretty young midfield combination. So Nick brings a little bit of experience, and hopefully Kieran gets a good run there in the second half.
In terms of the injuries, the three players who haven't been through the full summer are not featured yet. Are they okay for the World Cup?
Which three?
Johnny Williams, Talupe Kalatan, and Alex Cuthbert.
Talupe won't be available next week. He took he trained pretty well today. He's not feeling anything in his calf, and that's we're pretty confident that he's available for selection. I think Johnny's got potentially was fit for next week, and who's the other one?
Alex Cuthbert.
Alex Cuthbert should be fit for selection next week. Gareth Hanscom's not fit for selection.
Gareth Hanscom.
Yeah.
So not fit for next week.
Who's that?
Gareth Hanscom not fit for next week.
No.
Does that rule him out for the World Cup?
No, it doesn't. So he took a bit of a knock on his thumb in Turkey, so it's just precautionary at this stage. So he should be right after that.
The likes of Plumtree in the back row coming in, and Lydia still getting a big chance. What do you expect in the back row? You've been mixing and matching a bit.
Just looking at different combinations. We know that we've got some real competition at 7, so there's a chance for Tommy, and then with Tane on the bench, Tane Basham on the bench, and then Tane Plumtree is was an option. We thought Aaron Wainwright was really good last week, and if Talupe doesn't pull through for whatever reason or breaks down in the next few weeks, then we've got some a couple of players that have had a look at in the back row, and so with Dan coming in at 6, we've moved Chris to have a look at him in the second row. We're pleased with our second rows last week. So there's a chance for Adam Beard and Rhys Davis to make an impression. I thought Ben Carter was good when he came off the bench, and we'll see if Christ is an option for us either as a second row or that sort of hybrid sort of back row second row cover.
What are your expectations at Twickenham? Is it about learning more about your squad selection, or is it about winning the game?
For them or us? We just want to go out and give a good performance. That's we didn't talk about winning last week. We talked about performance. And if I go back to 2019, and I know the mindset that they would be in. We lost the first game up there, a pretty close game. We came down, and the game at home here was about winning, and digging deep and just getting that W on the board. So we haven't, like I said, we haven't spoken about winning. We've just spoken about the processes and then guys working hard for each other and playing hard for each other, and our whole mindset is this become a really tough team to beat. And if we become a tough team to beat and players are doing those things, the basics, the fundamentals, working hard for each other, then the result takes care of itself, as we saw last week. And we saw a team of guys who are working really hard and playing for each other. And so that's definitely the same mindset this week. And there's a lot at stake, and players are well aware of that. We're not highlighting that, not trying to put extra pressure on them. Just go out there and perform. They're well aware of the situation, and so as a result, we've mixed the teams up, and we're still not very uncertain. Particularly who's going to be maybe what the combination is going to be, who's going to be the second or the third player in that position, or who's going to be what's a combination of a midfield and the makeup of a back three. So there's definitely opportunities for players to go out there and perform, put their hands up.
Warren, is there recognition that this is almost a bigger challenge than last week? The way at Twickenham, some of us have won 3 times since 1990. It's more experienced in the squad. So if the debutant played well, came through the game, it would almost count for more?
Do you think it's a more experienced English squad?
Well, it's experienced back in there with Farah back in, you can call it back in.
Yeah, I thought they were pretty experienced last week. I thought they had put out a reasonable team. There's some, probably more, a few more Lions players coming into the squad and stuff, and that. The focus is on us. We tried to change a few things in terms of the way we did things last week with our kicking strategy. Looking at their stuff that they've posted online, they've talked about them wanting to win the kicking battle and about how kicking creates space, how we probably dominated that area last week. So we expect them to kick a heck of a lot more than they did last week.
Is midfield one of your biggest headaches?
Yep.
On the one hand, not really had a settled combination for the last few years. On the other, we've got some young, exciting players coming through. Do you know how many centres you want to take, or is it
probably 4?
4 centres. So you've said you went 19 forwards, 14 backs.
Probably, yeah.
Do you know the makeup of those backs at the minute, or is there an element that's based on performance?
Don't know the makeup.
Okay. You've mentioned, so injury-wise, that everyone's still in contention. I think you will have used 46 and 48 post this weekend. So all the players who haven't played are still very much in contention. Yeah, but
it's going to be tougher for them, isn't it? If you haven't trained a lot and you haven't played, you may get an opportunity next week, and you probably got to have a pretty special game and some of those players might get that chance next week. We'll see how Saturday goes, and look at the makeup of the squad, and then look at a couple of positions where we're not quite sure of, and so there may be a double up from players from the first game, just to finalise what we think. Like I said, in positions where there's 1 or 2 players which is a toss up. We'll make that call. So we're happy with the depth that we're creating for now and for going forward. But we're very much hoping to see what happens in the next couple of weeks. And there's always a challenge for players who have had injuries and haven't taken a full part. And and the training stuff, particularly for younger players. If you've been around for a while and experienced, you can tend to carry players, and England are doing that a little bit with some of the experienced players that haven't played a lot, and we'll look at that as well with the makeup of the squad.
And just finally, if you're thinking of taking 4 centres, does that mean more than likely 4 back 3 players?
Probably.
Alex?
Hi Warren, do you think that's a new warm-up game that there's actually maybe a little bit of pressure on England to win this weekend given the strength of our team?
No.
Okay. And I read your column on Marcus Smith with interest. What have you made of the approach that England are taking and maybe their struggles in the last World Cup cycle since reaching the final?
Look, I just think he's an incredibly talented player. I like him as a person, I like him as a rugby player. There were certain aspects of his game last week where he would have been a little bit disappointed with, but there was a couple of times on attack where he was very close to making line breaks and causing us some real problems as well. So, and they're going through a period where they're deciding which way they're going to go in terms of they've got a blueprint where they want to play. Whether he fits totally into that blueprint, I was just making comparisons with. If he was Welsh, he would have been in the team a few years ago with us because, we are limited with our playing depth and we don't have the luxuries that England have in that. And I think he's the sort of player for the future. There's been so much negativity around rugby the last couple of years. And we need to be positive about the game, and how do we create superstars in the game where kids want to look up to people and wear their jersey and play in the backyard and call themselves Marcus Smith. And I think potentially he can be that superstar. Like him to be playing for us, but that's the way I feel about him.
And have you stopped yourself in these last couple of weeks to think that maybe you could have been in the other camp if things had worked out?
Not really. I'm happy that I'm here.
And just lastly from me, obviously Australia, one of your main core rivals have named their squad. I don't know if you had the chance to see what you made of it, and Eddie James' comments that he's confident they're going to win the World Cup.
Yeah, he's pretty confident he was going to beat South Africa and New Zealand as well. So, I thought the interesting thing I haven't had a really good look at the squad. Obviously, with Hooper being out, Carter Gordon sort of looking like he's only sort of main 10 there. So, I think Skelton as captain, I thought was a little bit of a surprise as well. So he seems comfortable in throwing a few curveballs in there and. He's spoken really positively about what they're capable of doing. Eddie talked about smash and grab and doing that in the with the championship and the Bledisloe as well. So maybe part 2 of that might work, but part 1 hasn't sort of come off. So they're going to be. They've got some talented players and. We'll start thinking about them as we get closer towards that. We've probably got these next couple of games, name the squad, and then our focus will be, totally on that first up game, which is pretty important.
Okay, we'll do one from Crow.
Warren, in terms of the card and the stick, have you told the players that if they get a worldly performance in one game, that locks them in to the World Cup squad? Is it driven that hard, or is there still the potential that someone might be brilliant in their one opportunity and be unfortunate enough not to be selected come final squad?
I haven't said that. But I think with this group, if someone was brilliant on the weekend, it would be pretty hard to leave anyone out who was brilliant. So I said there's a lot of competition within the squad. I thought Jack Morgan's performance last week was pretty brilliant. So he's probably got a good chance of making it.
Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone. We'll leave it there with Warren.